we've got examples of companies over in Pennsylvania that have drilled their own well and now provide their own source of energy, greatly reducing their operating costs and actually creating a secondary revenue stream because they're getting so much gas out of their well that they can't use it all right there. So you're going to see a trickle-down effect as a result of the oil and natural gas, and as the demand for steel increases, you're going to see, I think you're going to see a resurgence of the need for steel manufacturing in America. I can't give you a timeline. It's going to be market-driven, but you're talking about a 30 to 40-year time period for these oil and gas companies to go after this resource that we have under our feet. I saw an article just this week. There's far more oil and gas in the Marcellus and the Utica than anyone ever anticipated. It's unbelievable the opportunity that's here. So we've got a lot of things to be looking forward to. I know that it does not put a lot of salve on the hurt and the wound of what's happened with RG Steel, but you can go to the bank. I'm going to continue working to try and make sure that we create an environment where somebody will come here and put our people back to work. That's what I'm working so hard to do. And I think if you talk to people like the plumbers and pipe fitters, Local 396 up in Youngstown, who have endorsed my efforts, that they will tell you that when you come to me, I don't care what party banner you wave, I don't care whether you're union or non-union, that doesn't matter to me. We look at moving the ball forward and solving the problem. That's what America expects, and that's what I've been trying to do. That's what I'm going to continue to do. So you've got some information in your package that I shared with you that gives you a little bit of the background on what we did. But I'll be glad to take some questions if you would like to, and we can discuss some things.
First of all, I want to thank you because every time I have contacted your office through email or telephone, you have responded personally. It seems like a personal letter to me.
Okay.
You've always answered my concerns. I have received letters from other congressmen in a form letter that has nothing to do with what questions I've asked them. So I really appreciate your staff and you for responding to my questions.
Well, thank you.
It might not have been what I wanted to hear, but anyway, you did respond.
You know, in this kind of economy, there's a lot that we don't want to hear either, and there's a lot that we don't want to have to say, because we got some real serious issues to address in America to get Washington off the backs of businesses so businesses can grow and hire and expand and put America back to work. So I appreciate what you said. Thank you so much.
And what I wanted to know was, you know, we see all the commercials now for the election, and President Obama is always referring to how he bailed out the auto industry. Where is the auto industry purchasing their steel?
It's a good question. It's a good question. They're not purchasing it from Mingo Junction, are they?
No, they aren't.
Yeah. That's a very good question, and you know, you have to ask that corollary question. You might not be aware of this. There is, but the steel workers will be. You know, there's an ingredient that goes into steel manufacturing. Sophie, you'll relate to this. You know, you can't make biscuits without flour. Well, you can't make steel without an ingredient called manganese ferroalloy. Got to have it. It's what gives steel its flexibility and yet retains its strength. There are two facilities in America that produces manganese ferroalloy. One of them is in Marietta, Ohio. One of them is in Letart, West Virginia. The EPA last year, or earlier this year, began the process of formulating a rule that would essentially require those two manganese ferroalloy producing facilities to put an enclosure, their term was an enclosure, over their facility in order to comply with clean air standards that were based on unscientific analysis, flawed technological analysis. And the companies tried to tell the EPA that. And the ultimate consequence of that rule would be that those two facilities would shut down. The only two manganese ferroalloy producing plants in the nation. And we would then have to buy that raw material from, you know where?
Yes.
China, other places. We got engaged in that process too. And hopefully it has created a dialogue, and we are hopeful that the EPA, now working with those companies, have seen not only the economic consequences of releasing such a rule and the hundreds of jobs and the thousands of jobs that would be trickle-down job losses as a result of not being able to produce that material, but also the national security implications. What happens if we can't manufacture steel, if we can't produce steel here in America, and we have to buy it from people that don't like us very much? Doesn't make any sense to me. So we've gotten the EPA to the table, and we're monitoring that situation very carefully.
I have a couple other questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Unless somebody else wants to go
Well,
first.
I'm not the moderator, but I'll stay and answer questions as long as we have time.
Okay,
He's a
now,
very good resident. He
thank you, Bob. I give
does
him
volunteer
problems.
work, and has to do volunteer work. He's an asset.
You are a real diplomat. That's the best way I've ever heard of describing the squeaky wheel in the neighborhood.
No, she's not that.
The older I get, the two
I was
older
raised in a
squeak.
business family. I had to go to work at 12, and my dad taught me how to be a servant.
There you go. There you go. Well, ma'am, you ask away. We'll answer.
Okay, we have trillions of dollars in debt.
Yeah.
We keep borrowing from China. I'm thinking one of these days they're going to call in our loans. You know what's going to happen to us. But anyway, you see all these catastrophes happening overseas, foreign countries. Right away, we're giving them aid, right away. We have people homeless here. We have people that are hungry. Young children, young adults can't get an education.